The city glistened that evening, its lights shimmering against the wet streets after a sudden downpour. Umbrellas bloomed like flowers, cars honked impatiently, and the sound of laughter mixed with the distant hum of jazz escaping from a high-end hotel's grand ballroom. Inside that very hotel, the Crownsworth, the annual Wellington Gala was about to begin. It was the event of the season, where business tycoons, socialites, and politicians paraded in designer suits and glittering gowns. Among them should have been Emily Hart, a young woman in her mid-twenties, clutching a damp invitation card in trembling hands. Her heart pounded as she stood outside the hotel entrance, staring at the revolving glass doors that reflected her anxious face. She wasn't supposed to be there. Not really. Emily worked as a junior florist for the event management company decorating the gala hall. Her role was to deliver bouquets, arrange the orchids, and leave before the guests arrived. But when her boss, Mrs. Langley, called her earlier that evening, her life took an unexpected turn. Emily, her boss said briskly over the phone, "We're short on staff tonight. The Wellingtons just requested someone to hand-deliver a custom corsage to Miss Clara Wellington inside the ballroom. Can you handle that? You'll need to blend in. Dress decently. And Emily, don't embarrass us." Emily hesitated. Blend in? She looked down at her simple blue dress. It was pretty, but nothing like the dazzling gowns those women wore on the front page of magazines. Still, she agreed. She couldn't afford to lose another job. Her father's hospital bills were piling up, and the small floral shop job barely covered rent. So she packed the corsage, applied a thin layer of lipstick, and prayed no one would notice she didn't belong. But as she reached the grand staircase, she froze. Cameras flashed everywhere. Guests laughed elegantly while sipping champagne. And then she saw him, Ryan Caldwell, the man everyone in the city whispered about. Billionaire CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, one of the youngest and most successful tech magnates in the country. He was tall, impeccably dressed, and carried an aura of calm authority that made others instinctively step aside when he passed. Emily had seen his photo 100 times in the news, but in person, he was intimidating. The kind of man who could silence a room just by walking through it. Unfortunately, that's exactly when Clara Wellington, the host's glamorous daughter, noticed Emily. "You there, what are you doing here?" Clara's voice sliced through the chatter. The crowd turned. Emily's throat went dry. She stepped forward nervously, holding out the corsage. I was told to bring this to you, Miss Wellington. From Langley Floral." Clara's eyes narrowed, scanning her from head to toe. "Langley Floral? You mean the same people who messed up last year's order?" She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Do you even know how to tie a corsage properly? God, Father should fire that company already." Laughter rippled through the nearby group. Emily felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to disappear. That's when she heard it, the slow click of shoes approaching. A deep, steady voice cut through the noise. "Miss Wellington, I believe she's just doing her job." The crowd parted slightly, and Ryan Caldwell stood there, his gray eyes calm yet commanding. Clara blinked, immediately softening her tone. "Oh. Mr. Caldwell. I didn't mean, of course, just joking." But Ryan's gaze had already shifted to Emily, who was staring at the floor. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded quickly, mumbling something about leaving. He gave her a brief nod, then turned to Clara. "You might want to thank the people who make your parties look beautiful," he said evenly, then walked away. Emily stood frozen. The man had just defended her in front of the city's elite. She wanted to say thank you, but by the time she gathered her courage, he was gone, swallowed by the glittering crowd. She turned to leave. But as she reached the lobby, disaster struck. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mrs. Langley, "Emily. Urgent. The delivery mix-up ruined our reputation. You're fired. Don't come back tomorrow. Emily's breath caught. Fired? Just like that? She blinked back tears, clutching her bag, and rushed out into the rain. The streets had emptied, puddles reflected the golden lights of the hotel behind her. She wanted to scream, to run, but all she could do was walk aimlessly, her mind spinning with fear. How would she pay the bills now? What would she tell her father? That's when fate stepped in again. She stopped under a flickering street lamp to check her phone, only to realize her battery was dying. Across the street, a black limousine door opened. Out stepped a man, umbrella in hand, walking with quiet confidence. Emily's eyes widened. It was him again. Ryan Caldwell. He looked surprised to see her. "You're still here?" he asked, glancing at her soaked hair and trembling hands. She tried to smile. "I was just leaving. Long night." He hesitated. "You shouldn't be walking alone in this weather." She laughed softly. "Well, I don't exactly have a driver waiting." Ryan studied her for a moment. There was something about her, something raw and genuine that none of the high society people he knew possessed. "Do you need a ride?" he offered. She shook her head quickly. "No, thank you, Mr. Caldwell. I don't want to trouble you." He raised an eyebrow. "You're not. But if you insist on standing here, at least take my umbrella." Before she could refuse, he handed it to her and walked back toward the hotel. Emily stood there, dumbfounded, holding the umbrella of a billionaire. Her heart thudded, not out of romance yet, but out of disbelief that someone like him would even notice someone like her. She should have gone home. She should have turned away. But destiny had one more twist planned for that night. As she crossed the street, she noticed a black van pull up suddenly near the hotel entrance. 2 security guards rushed out, whispering urgently into their earpieces. A commotion broke out inside. The gala had apparently been hit by an unexpected media scandal involving one of the sponsors. Cameras were swarming the entrance. Ryan emerged again, looking irritated, when a woman in a red gown ran up to him. "Ryan. Thank goodness. My date cancelled last minute, and the press is already inside. Please pretend to be with me tonight. Just one photo." Ryan's face hardened. "Clara, I told you before, I'm not interested in playing your games." He started to walk away. That's when Clara spotted Emily again, standing under his umbrella like a misplaced raindrop. "Who's she?" Clara sneered. "Oh, I see. You already have company." The photographers began to notice them, snapping pictures from across the street. Ryan sighed heavily, rubbing his temple. Emily looked completely lost. I didn't mean," she stammered. And then, out of nowhere, Emily blurted, "Can you pretend to be my date for tonight?" The words came out before she could stop herself. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was courage disguised as panic. But her voice trembled with something that caught Ryan completely off guard. The cameras froze. Clara's jaw dropped. Ryan turned to her slowly, rain glistening on his coat, his eyes narrowing. "What did you just say?" Emily swallowed hard, her cheeks burning. "Please," she whispered. "Just pretend, just for a minute. They'll stop laughing at me. They'll stop looking." For a long, heavy second, the world went silent. Then Ryan exhaled, a half-smile forming at the corner of his lips. "All right," he said softly, surprising even himself. "Just for tonight." He took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. Cameras flashed wildly. The reporters, hungry for a headline, started whispering, "Ryan Caldwell's mystery woman." The story spread like fire. Inside the hotel, the host scrambled to welcome the unexpected couple. Emily couldn't believe what was happening. Her heart raced as Ryan offered his arm. "You started this," he murmured quietly. "Might as well play along." As they entered the ballroom together, everyone turned. The chandeliers glimmered above them, casting a soft golden glow. The orchestra played a slow, romantic tune. Emily's mind screamed that this was madness, but her heart whispered that it felt right. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. For the first time, she wasn't just the girl who delivered flowers. She was someone standing beside a man who could change her world. But little did she know, this one night, this one impulsive act, would unravel secrets buried deep within both their lives. Because Ryan Caldwell wasn't just a CEO. He was a man haunted by a past he never talked about. And Emily Hart wasn't just a florist. She was connected to him in ways neither of them yet understood. As they danced slowly under the glimmering lights, Ryan leaned closer and whispered, "You're full of surprises, Miss Hart." Emily smiled nervously, whispering back, "You have no idea, Mr. Caldwell." The music swelled, their eyes met, and for the first time, the world outside the ballroom didn't matter. But as the camera flashes grew brighter and the whispers spread through the crowd, one thing was clear, this was no longer pretend. The music faded to a hush, and for a brief moment, Emily forgot how to breathe. The soft strings of the orchestra seemed to pull her closer to Ryan, as though the melody itself conspired to make her heart betray her calm. His hand rested lightly on her waist, his gaze steady yet unreadable. People watched them from every corner, the mystery couple who'd arrived together without warning. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. "Who is she?" someone asked. "She's not from our circle," another muttered. But Ryan didn't seem to care. In fact, he looked almost relieved to have someone unpretentious beside him. Emily, however, felt like she was dancing on the edge of a dream that could shatter at any second. "Mr. Caldwell," she whispered nervously, "you really don't have to do this anymore. I've already embarrassed you enough." He looked down at her, his voice calm. "Do I look embarrassed to you?" Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. He smiled faintly, then leaned closer. "You asked me to pretend, Miss Hart. So, until the night ends, let's make it convincing." And convincing it was. He twirled her gently, his hand firm, his movements graceful. The crowd softened, the laughter turned into curiosity, and even Clara Wellington's sharp expression melted into stunned silence. The photographers, intoxicated by the mystery, snapped every moment. As the song ended, Ryan led Emily toward the balcony, away from prying eyes. The night air was cool and fragrant with the scent of roses. She sighed, leaning against the railing, her heart still fluttering. "Thank you," she said softly. "For saving me, again." Ryan slipped his hands into his pockets, studying her. "You're not like them," he said simply. "You don't try to impress anyone. You just are." Emily smiled faintly. "That's one way to say, you don't belong here," she said, half joking. He chuckled quietly. "No. That's one way to say you're real." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city stretched out below them, glimmering like a sea of stars. Emily's mind raced. Why was he even talking to her like this? He could have left, could have avoided the scandal entirely. And yet, he was here, talking to her as if she mattered. Finally, she asked, "Why did you say yes?" He turned to face her. "Because you looked like someone who needed a yes tonight." Those words hit her harder than she expected. She blinked, swallowing back tears. "It's been a long few days," she confessed. "Lost my job. Lost my savings. My dad's sick. I didn't mean to make a fool of myself, I just..." Her voice